Have you ever met a collector and instantly you recognize what kind of collector they are? Not in a bad way, just their vibe, their shelf, their focus, their energy. It just says everything. And if we're being honest, we all fall into one of a few types. Today, I want to break down what I believe are the 3 main types of collectors, not just to put us in a box, but to ask a bigger question. What kind of collector are you becoming? Because who you are inside of this hobby can say a lot about who you are outside of it as well. Stick around. The hunter. To nobody's surprise, we'll start off with the hunter, the thrill seeker, the one that's always after that next piece, the next drop, the next pre-order. The hunter is the type of collector that knows his street dates before the retailers do, has his alerts set for restocks, probably walks around with BrickSeek on his phone, and he could just smell a Target restock like 3 hours away. Above everything else, the hunter lives off of passion. To collect as a hunter, you have to have drive, determination, and a deeper understanding of how the game is actually played. But the flip side is real because a lot of hunters can burn out fast. Because when everything is about the chase, what happens when the chase ends? Or what happens when the chase keeps you running around in circles and you keep coming up short? Do hunters actually take the time to enjoy the figure that they've been wanting this whole time? Or is it simply on to the next one? Starting off in collecting, I want to say that's how it was for me. That was probably the best time period of my collecting life, and it's such a shame that it went and left so fast for me. Stores used to be overflowing with figures back in the day. Like the Marvel section by itself sometimes was as big as your arm span. These days, it feels like us as collectors are getting bigger shipments sent to our house than Walmart or Target are even getting delivered. That's a big jump. 2 or 3 people back in the day used to be able to pick out a whole wave from what they saw on the shelves at the same time. Fast forward to today, and it's basically just the first person that makes it there can get the wave. Everybody else is picking over leftovers. Nothing really beats that feeling of finding what you want in the wild, though. That's something right there that can never be replaced. I don't really care about pre-orders or 2-day shipping. None of those things hit the same. You already know what's in the box before you open it. We already knew that we had that like months ago. So by the time that it finally pulls up to our crib, it's like we're mentally on to the next one. A lot of the time it's more like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. There's something different about hunting down figures in the wild because you never know what you're really gonna come across. It's all a crapshoot. We all know what's released and should be floating around our area at the time, but is it there yet? Am I the first one? Can I grab 2 or 3? These are the things that we really don't know until we pull up to the store and we see for ourselves. As a hunter, you also get to pick the one that you want. If you see 3 different copies of the same figure at the same time, then you get to decide things like which one comes with the better box. If that's something that you're into, you get to check out right there. If the eyes came out correct, if there are any paint blemishes anywhere on the body. When you actually get up off your couch, you actually might have your pick of the litter. When you buy something online, though, you basically getting whatever homie feel like grabbing and throwing in the box. Even if it was perfect when he mailed it, you do know it might not get to your house like that. Although being a hunter and collecting is getting phased out, a lot of us still do exist. And I think we all look forward to that WTF moment in the wild when we finally find what it is that we're looking for. It doesn't happen as much as it used to. And these days, it's more accidental than it is on purpose. But when that feeling hits, it hits. There's nothing wrong with being a hunter unless it turns into stress or even worse, resentment. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants a hobby that feels like a full-time job. The curator. Moving on to the second type of collector, my personal favorite, the curator. That's the type of collector that doesn't just own figures. They present them thoughtfully, carefully. Everything has a place and every shelf tells a story. Curators aren't out there trying to pick up everything. If anything, they're more selective, more patient, and more interested in how a figure fits than they are about the actual hype surrounding it. A curator will ask themselves questions like, does this figure fit in my theme? Does this fit on my shelf or even my personal canon? And that's pretty much where I'm at with my collecting. I'm not really into picking up everything that's coming out. Space and money are always going to be an issue for me, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they're not. No matter how hot or how tough I think something is. If it doesn't fit what I have going on, then I have to let it pass me, even if it hurts. The best example I could think of right now is the Fantastic Four figures from the First Steps movie. With the exception of that Silver Surfer, I pretty much like them all. The Sky Blue was tough, and I love how the figures came out. I've caught myself thinking about getting them, but I have to keep it real with myself in the grand scheme of why it is that I collect in the first place. I don't collect because things are hot. I collect because certain things bring me back to a place where I was either in or that I wanted to be in. It has to fit that. Do I love the Fantastic Four? Absolutely. Who doesn't love Marvel's first family? But the Fantastic Four that I grew up with are from the pages that I was reading. Pedro Pascal might be some people's Reed Richards, but he's not mine. I'm sorry. And with that being said, Chris Evans is not my Captain America, and Hugh Jackman is not my Wolverine. Those are MCU characters, and throughout my collecting journey, I've learned to understand that. I don't like MCU figures, and I don't want them in my collection. I personally only want comic-based figures that reflect what it is that I remember. So my Fantastic Four that I will always have in my display are always going to be the Walgreens exclusives, because those are the ones that I grew up watching as a kid. Even the black costumes are second place to me because I already have the ones that fit in my collection. Curating your collection will be in the opposite direction of being a completionist. A completionist will want every single set of Fantastic Four figures that have ever come out, whereas a curator will be happy with the Fantastic Four set that brings nostalgia, and he would not worry about anything else that came out. Curators have a vision in their head that they stick with, and it's hard to sway from. And honestly, I respect that type the most because of how hard it is to control. Being a curator is really one of the only types of collecting that comes with restrictions and discipline. Curation is a skill. It's about taste and discipline. We're not just collecting, we're creating a space, something that reflects your identity and who you are as a person. But even curators have a shadow side. Sometimes that obsession of creating the perfect shelf can lead to paralysis, or even worse, feeling guilty about adding something to your shelf just because you like it and not because it fits. At its best, curation is an act of self-expression, but at its worst, it's another form of perfectionism, the Archivist. In last place, we have the Archivist. That guy right there is the historian, the completionist. They want the whole story. They don't want just Spider-Man. They want every Spider suit that ever dropped. They don't want just Wolverine. They want every version from every era. Archivists live for cataloging, organizing, and documenting the evolution of characters, lines, or brands. They're the ones that know which factory, which wave came from. They keep the packaging, the receipts, and the history. And I'll be the first one to say, we need archivists. They preserve the culture. They remember the releases that companies want us to forget. They hold the receipts, literally and metaphorically. I think I started off in a rush, and I was just trying to put things together in the beginning. I didn't really have a plan, and I was just moving to move. If I liked something, I bought it. And just like a kid, I would look at the back of the box, and I would try to connect the dots. That was me in the beginning. I didn't have anything, so I felt like I needed everything. But the kickback hits different on this one too. An archivist can get buried under the weight of their completeness. We already know the struggle of what it is trying to get what we want. Imagine the struggle of trying to get everything. Not in 2025, that has to be a nightmare scenario. That FOMO hits different when your whole identity is based around having everything. At that point, you're not chasing passion, you're chasing closure. And that's something totally different right there. Reflection. So here's the truth in a nutshell. Most of us are a mix of all of these. Some of us are hunters and some of us are curators, while others are archivists. But what's even more truthful is the fact that we all shift over time. That's a natural evolution of our hobby, and that's just us being human. But the question here isn't which one are you? The question is really, which one do you want to be? What type of collector brings you peace and not just pride, happiness and not just numbers? Because I'll be honest, when I stopped chasing everything that dropped and I started collecting with intention, or curating, my shelves got smaller, but I really felt like everything was so much bigger. So which collector are you? Drop it in the comments and let's see how this goes. Are you the hunter, the curator, the archivist, or something else entirely that I didn't even bring up? At the end of the day, no matter what kind of collector you are, we're all here for the same reasons. These figures speak to us. Whether you're building your ultimate display, chasing down holy grails, or just holding on to the characters that shaped your life, this hobby is a reflection of who you are. So instead of judging each other for how we collect, maybe it's time that we just appreciate the fact that we all care this much. Because if collecting teaches anything, it's that meaning can be found in the smallest detail, and that includes each other. Until next time. Peace.